So as I was saying, after the abortion, my ex was gonna get the restraining order. Uh, as I said, she had got the restraining order when she was like 4 months pregnant because, uh, like I said, she wasn't following the doctor's orders. She was supposed to be on bed rest, but then she went to Kids Empire, and then I got upset at her daughter because she was taking care of her daughter. I put the daughter outside. She got upset at me, and then she told me to leave, and I left. But I made her promise to let me talk to her the next day. Next day, I'm trying to get a hold of her. She's supposed to be on bed rest. I'm worried she's not on bed rest. So then I went to her school, her daughter's school, to talk to the principal, to tell her what was going on and see if I can get a hold of her baby dad, because her baby dad didn't know that she was pregnant, so that he can maybe help take care of the daughter. Anyway, she got the restraining order. And then, the whole time during the restraining order, I was worried she was going to get an abortion because she said she needed me to take care of her while she was pregnant, or she would have it, or the baby wouldn't survive. So I thought she would get an abortion. And then, a little while later, she got the abortion. And as I said, she brought me I was supposed to go to the court. I went to the court for the restraining order. And I was, at that time, I had just found out that she had the abortion. So I was just really devastated. I was like, you can't overestimate like how distraught I was at the time. Like life was like hellish. It was like a nightmare. Like every time I'd wake up, I'd be like, I'm in a nightmare, even though I discovered the theory of everything. I could have been playing professional basketball. I could have been, huge with the rap. I discovered the theory of everything. My life should not be a fucking nightmare. But, my mom and dad abandoned me. A bunch of bullshit. My grandpa didn't believe me. My grandpa made things worse. And then, like I said, and with my ex, I felt bad for her because I was like, my mom and dad would not meet her during the pregnancy. They said that they would never see me, and so I felt bad for her because it's like she didn't want to have a baby brought into the world she didn't know that I discovered the theory of everything, but she sees me, she made assumptions that probably I had mental illness or something because my mom and dad won't talk to me, or that I was a bad person. And, she obviously didn't respect me because she was, Snapchatting guys in front of me, going to parties without me while she was pregnant, so she didn't respect me. So she had the abortion. But the thing was, like, in the back of my mind, I was like, it's not totally her fault. Even though she did some messed up stuff, and my grandpa would say that that's indicative of a lower level of software, I felt bad for her because of the whole situation. And also, like I said, it was, I was seeing things in a Darwinian sense. I shouldn't have got her pregnant. I wanted to have a baby so I could be superior. I wasn't in the flow. I didn't understand my grandpa's existential metapsychiatry at that point. But as I said, when I went to the court case, she called me, and then she was crying, and she told me she was not going to go, but she told me that she was suicidal. She wanted to kill herself. She wanted to be with the baby. She told me that the doctor had told her that the baby had vasoprevia, and, she thought the baby would have disorders or whatever, so she ended up getting an abortion. So, I felt really bad for her. I didn't really care that much about the baby because, like I said, I really liked her. And, like I said, I loved her because even at the, when even though my swag flow was off, if my mom would have helped me just get the basketball videos when I was younger, I would have had the really good swag flow and all that stuff. But, my family abandoned me. But the thing was, like, she was a good, like, she was nice to me at first, and I really liked her at first. And also, as I said, like, she was on my side at first. Like, she supported me with basketball. Like, she was the one who was like, yeah, Ryan, you go and play basketball. Whereas my mom would be like, you're a fucking loser. You suck at basketball. When she knows that I was the best at basketball. But after the shootaway, yeah, I started to suck. But my mom hasn't seen me since then. And if I had more basketball videos and stuff, I would have been amazing. But, my mom didn't support me. My mom's just like, you're a fucking loser. You fucking schizophrenic loser. Piece of shit. But, my ex, she was supporting me. She was like, yeah, go play basketball. You're going to be awesome. And, she was like nice to me in terms of like, she was like, I can't believe that your mom and dad won't talk to you. Like, if my mom and dad didn't talk to me, that would, I would be really hurt. And I was like, yeah, but anyway, so I felt bad for her. And, she's sweet. And when she called me, she's crying. And she has like the soft voice. And, she's just really sad. And I always liked her a lot, So I was just really upset. And so, but I wanted to see her. But it's still in my mind at the time. I still didn't understand my grandpa's metapsychiatry, existential metapsychiatry. So I still saw the world in a Darwinian sense. And again, the reason why I was that way, because I was anti-religion. So I wanted to believe that religion was just an epiphenomenon of Darwinism. So I still just wanted to have a baby. So I still wanted to have a baby with her. So, but, she told me that, she was very suicidal. She was in a lot of pain. She was in the worst pain of her life. And she, and the thing was, I also felt bad because I posted online all the stuff that was going on. Because when she was pregnant and she wasn't talking to me, I wanted everybody to know what was going on so she wouldn't get an abortion. And I wanted people to know so maybe someone would help me, because someone had to help take care of her while she was pregnant and on bed rest. If she would have just, now I make myself out to be the bad guy, but if she would have just talked to me and been mature and responded to my texts, it wouldn't have happened. But she wasn't mature. She didn't respond to my texts. So, I went online and I told people what was going on. And, cause I wanted help, but, and I was hoping that by letting people know what was going on, she wouldn't get the abortion. But, so I wrote this, like I said, I wrote that book to get my grandpa to start teaching me again. I was saying like, oh, it's my fault. Oh, yeah. And I tried to take responsibility like, oh, it's my fault. Yeah, I was trying to make things happen like Darth Vader. I was like Darth Vader and he tried to save Padme's life and I tried to save the baby. But in my attempts to try to save the baby, I ended up making the abortion happen. No, that's bullshit. It might be true in a sense, but at the same time, it is bullshit because my ex was being stupid. I was in a terrible situation. She should have told her family that she was pregnant. She should have told her baby dad that she was pregnant. She wasn't responding to my texts. She was cheating on me in front of me, texting other guys. It wasn't all my fault, but I was trying to take responsibility. Oh, it's my fault. I shouldn't. But, I did feel bad for going online and letting people know what happened and stuff. And, and I felt bad for her because really I liked her. I liked her. Maybe I love her. Maybe I love her still, and I still loved her. But the thing is, like, I just didn't want her to kill herself too because I really liked her a lot. And at that point, she was suicidal. And like I said, I didn't care that much about the baby. I cared more about her. Because I wanted to stay with her, and because I liked her a lot. But I was hoping that we could try to have a baby again. So I was like, okay, well, this time you had the abortion, whatever. Let's do it again. Let's try to have a baby again. So, but anyways, then she came over to my place and, cause, it took a while, but, it took like a few weeks of us talking on the phone. We were just talking on the phone only. And like I said, every time I talked to her, she would be crying and she would tell me how she was suicidal and she just wanted to kill herself. And I felt really bad. And I was telling her it was my fault, and I shouldn't have, said gossiped about her and stuff online. But the thing was like, it wasn't really my fault. It was a lot of factors. And also, like, the fact of the matter was she had a short cervix. She had, because she had 3 abortions before, she had a short cervix. So, I felt bad. And I just didn't want her to kill herself. That was the main thing. Because in my mind, I was like, it really hurt a lot that the baby was dead. But what would hurt me the most is if she died. So in my mind, I was like, if she died, that would ruin my life. It would destroy my life. I don't know if I'd be able to move on. So, and I would feel guilt because, yeah, it wasn't completely my fault, but at the same time, I wasn't an angel. I probably did mess up in ways, even though it's not acceptable the way that she was treating me, that she would lie about going to a party, that she would be Snapchatting guys in front of me and behind my back, and that she would be, not answering my text messages. But again, like I said, she didn't respect me, and in her mind, she's probably thinking, his own mom and dad won't talk to him, so why would I even talk to him? She's like a typical immature person. But, but I felt really bad and I didn't want her to kill herself because I did like her a lot, and I probably did love her and I probably still do love her. So, and like I said, she ended up saving me because, like I said, she after this, I ended up recognizing my grandpa's teaching. So as I said, at that time, my grandpa started teaching me again. And during that time, like, I couldn't talk about anything without crying. Like, for a whole year, I was in really bad shape Like, I think it's a miracle that I didn't go crazy, because I was in super bad shape. I couldn't leave my apartment. If I left my apartment, if I ever saw like a kid, I would start to cry. And like it was like really, really bad. And people have no idea how like close I probably came to literally losing my mind. It was really, really bad. Like I can't exaggerate how bad it was. There's no way that I could even explain it. But you know, I at first, you know, she finally came to my place, and she told me, you know, that the baby, you know, died or whatever, because, you know, she had Vasoprevia and stuff. And so I told her, you know, I spent like thousands of dollars on EBT when she was pregnant. And I was like, I'd like to be able to see, you know, the doctor's notes about what actually happened, because I want to see if the baby really did have Vasoprevia. You're telling me that the baby had Vasoprevia and stuff, but I'd like to know really what, can I get, you know, I believe you, I guess, but can I see what the doctor's notes and stuff? But she told me she wouldn't give me the doctor's notes. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, so I have to just live in question about really what happened to my daughter, if she just had an abortion for no reason, or if she had an abortion because of Vasoprevia and stuff. But regardless, I wouldn't care that much. I really just care that my ex wouldn't kill herself, because that's all I really care about, because that would destroy my life. You know, that's the way I was seeing it. But I still love my ex. And I wanted to have a baby with her again. So I was just like, okay, because I was stupid, you know? Again, I was thinking in a Darwinian sense, and I wasn't in existential. I didn't understand my grandpa's existential metapsychiatry. I'll describe how I started to understand his metapsychiatry later. But at that time, I was just like, I want to have a baby so I could be superior. So, you know, you know, my ex came into my place a few times, and each time she's crying the whole time. But then we ended up having intercourse, and this was crazy. When we had intercourse, the one time, the lights in my apartment started to flicker. Never happened before. And she saw it too. And we're both like, well, it never happened before. But it's funny because I told her, oh, this happens every once in a while. But no, it's never happened before. I just told her that because I didn't want her to freak out. But we did have intercourse, and the lights started to flicker in my apartment the whole time we had intercourse. It's so crazy. The craziest thing. Now the question is, was it a ghost, or was it... But it was also a rainy night that night, so it could have been that. But I've had many other rainy nights, and I've never had the lights flicker. So that was really weird. But, you know, so, but then I think that I probably tried to push it too fast and had intercourse too fast. And like I said, she didn't respect me to begin with. She didn't know that I discovered the theory of everything. So she ended up, you know, calling me. Like I said, you know, I would text her every morning, and I'd be like, you know, how are you doing? Are you okay? Because she was suicidal. She was telling me that she wanted to kill herself. Every time I saw her, she would be crying the whole time and telling me she wanted to kill herself. So I was really scared, because I thought, you know, if she kills herself, that would destroy my life. And I really liked her a lot. So I would text her every morning, and like, and throughout the day, like, how are you doing? How's everything going? And then, like I said, she was awesome. Like she helped me get a job. She got me on this, like, what's it called? Like I said, my mom never helped me with anything. My mom was just like, you have to get a job at McDonald's, you fucking loser. Actually, you can't work. You're schizophrenic. You need to work in a warehouse if you're going to work. My mom's just a bitch, and she's never talked to me. She's never seen me. How can my mom make these assumptions if she hasn't seen me for 20 years? But my ex, like I said, my ex thought I had schizophrenia. You know, she thought that I had a mental illness. But then she got me on this like job application website, and I ended up getting a job as a behavior therapist. But she wanted me to get a job as in the fast food place, because I think she looked down upon me, you know? And she probably just wanted to be like, yeah, my ex was a fucking loser McDonald's worker, like my other baby dad who's a loser Domino's worker. But no, I ended up getting a job as a behavior therapist, and I kind of rubbed that in. And I rubbed that into my mom too, because I was telling my mom, I'm working as a behavior therapist. How can I be mentally ill if I'm working as a behavior therapist? And finally, my mom, for the first time, was like, maybe you're not mentally ill. But I was like, yeah, you fucking... But I was like, well, can I see you and dad? And my mom's like, no, it's never going to happen. And that was what I wanted to rub into my grandpa, because my grandpa's whole thing was like, once you become independent, then maybe your mom and dad will talk to you. But I started working as a behavior therapist, and I talked to my mom, and I was like, Mom, well, I'm working. Can I see you and dad? And my mom was like, no, it's never going to happen. You just have to accept that. And I told my grandpa was like, we'll talk to them. But he didn't really talk to them, and they still said that they would never talk to me. And then, as I was saying, my ex, I was still texting her all the time, but you know, I was out of it, and I still wanted to have a baby. I wanted to have a baby with her and all that. And but she ended up she Snapchatted me again, as usual, like being immature, being rude, and she Snapchatted me and basically broke up with me over the phone. Like, she was like, Ryan, I don't think I think it's best that we just go our separate ways, and you're not, we're not going to be together anymore. And I probably was overdoing it with all my texts of her and stuff, but I was like really scared she was going to kill herself. But then this was the problem was, she basically broke up with me, and she told me that she didn't want to talk to me anymore. And she said that when she's ready, she would talk to me again. But the problem was, at that time I was still really scared that she was going to kill herself. So at that time I started to, every day I would drive to her apartment to check on her car to see if she was still alive, because I was afraid that she was going to kill herself. So in the morning I would go check on her car to see if she was still alive. Because again, at this time I was trying to text her. Well, this is the thing. So she told me on Snapchat that's best that we don't talk to each other anymore. But then again, I probably tried to make things happen, and I started texting her angry, like, because she said, Ryan, you really hurt me, and I think it's best we don't see each other anymore. So I texted her on Snapchat, like, I hurt you? What are you talking about? You're the one who hurt me. You're the one who had the abortion, and I was kind of mean to her, right? But then again, like after that, then I felt really bad because I didn't want her to kill herself. But the reason why I was mean to her was because I wanted her to not throw me to the side and to continue to talk to me, because I didn't want to, I wanted to, she said that after the abortion that we would do, therapy together, and we would grieve together and do all that stuff. But then, then she ended up telling me that she didn't want to, associate with me anymore. But at that time I was still in really bad shape, and I still wanted to see her, and I still wanted to talk to her, and so, and the main thing was, I just want to know that she was alive. So at this point, I was still texting her. I was just like, sweetie, is it okay if you can just tell me, maybe just text me once a month and just tell me you're doing okay? Because really all I was afraid of was that she was going to kill herself, because she was suicidal last time I talked to her. Last time I talked to her, she said she wanted to kill herself, and she was crying. So I was very afraid that she was going to kill herself. And in my mind, I was like, if she does kill herself, that would ruin my life. So I continued to text her over and over, just being like, sweetie, please stay strong. Please never hurt yourself. Please stay strong. Please never hurt yourself. Please never kill yourself. Please stay strong. And I would just, and I kept on texting her stuff to try to make her feel better, like saying it was my fault, and, and all that type of stuff. And that, telling her how much I care about her and stuff like that. But I was just really afraid she was going to kill herself. So, so like I said, I would just drive to her apartment every day, and I would check her car. That was it. I just check her car and I would drive away, but just to see if she moved in the morning, right? Like, I would check her car and I would see, okay, is she still alive, pretty much? Like, I would check her car in the morning, and then I would check her car at night. And in the morning, her car would be there, right? Or no, her car would usually be gone because she would be at work. But then at night, I would check again to see if she came back. And because I was, I think she told me that she was thinking of getting a gun. But, she told me she wanted to kill herself, so I was just making sure she wasn't going to kill herself. So then, like I said, one morning, I went to her place, and her car didn't go. So I was afraid that she had killed herself. I was thinking, like, maybe she took pills or something. So I went, and I got into I had someone open up the door of the place, and I went to her apartment, and I knock on the door just to see if she's alive, and I tell her. So she opens the door, and I tell her, I say, sweetie, I do love you, and I still loved her at the time. So I was like, I do love you, and I really just am very scared that you're going to kill yourself, because I was afraid when I knock on the door that no one's going to answer, and that she's dead, and she had taken a bunch of pills, or she slit her wrist or something. So, I just wanted to tell her, like, so I told her, is it possible that you can just every once in a while send me a text message just so I know you're still alive? Because the thing is, she doesn't have social media, so I don't know if she's ever alive. So she tells me, I'll contact you if I'm ready. If ever I'm ready to contact you, I'll contact you. But I was like, but please, for my sake, because I'm being harmed mentally. I'm very scared you're going to kill yourself, because, and it's not an irrational fear. She had told me last time, for months, she was crying every day when she talked to me, telling me she wanted to kill herself, and she was going to kill herself. So I was really scared. So I'm telling her, can you please just tell me, just let me know. Just maybe send a text message once a month. You could even send a text message just with like one letter, like J, just so I know that you're still alive. So in the back of my mind, I was like, I didn't want to tell her, but I didn't want to waste gas because I kept on driving to her place to see if she was still alive. I didn't want to waste gas anymore. So I was just like, can you please just text me? Maybe like once a month, just so I know you're alive. In the back of my mind, I'm like, so I don't have to fucking drive up to see if you're still alive. So I don't have to waste gas. You know, because I was really scared she was going to kill herself. But she told me, I'll message you when I'm ready. Okay? So I'll continue.